What happens when a talk show host decides to challenge the most respected actor of his generation, a man who has spent 50 years letting his work speak for itself, and discovers that quiet dignity can be more devastating than any shouting match? What you're about to witness is one of the most powerful confrontations ever captured on daytime television. The moment when Joy Behar attempted to crack through Denzel Washington's legendary composure and found herself facing a man whose silence was more eloquent than her accusations. The View studio transformed into something almost sacred. The questions were designed to provoke. The actor refused to be provoked. And America watched as one of its greatest living artists demonstrated why true strength doesn't need to raise its voice. Before we dive into this incredible story, make sure to subscribe and drop your thoughts in the comments, because this confrontation will change everything you think you know about grace under pressure. The View studio carried an almost reverent energy that Thursday morning. Word had spread that Denzel Washington was the guest, and there was a quality to the anticipation that was different from the usual celebrity excitement. This wasn't just a movie star. This was an institution. A man who had won 2 Academy Awards, who had played Malcolm X and Hurricane Carter and Alonzo Harris with equal conviction, who had been married to the same woman for over 40 years in an industry where marriages were measured in months. When Denzel Washington walked onto the set, the applause was thunderous and sustained. At 69 years old, he moved with the quiet authority of a man who had nothing to prove and nothing to hide. His famous face was calm, watchful, carrying the weight of a life spent studying human nature and portraying it on screen. There was something almost ministerial about his presence. This was a man of deep faith, a man who had considered becoming a preacher before choosing acting, who still attended church regularly and credited God for every success. He carried that spiritual foundation with him into every room, a groundedness that made other people's chaos seem small and temporary. He settled into the guest chair with the economy of movement that characterized everything he did. No wasted gestures, no performative warmth, just a genuine nod to the audience and a quiet thank you that somehow carried more weight than most people's entire speeches. Whoopi greeted him with obvious respect, one legend to another. Sarah Haynes seemed almost nervous in his presence. The audience was hushed, as if they sensed they were in the presence of something rare. Joy Behar, however, sat in her chair with that familiar expression, the one that suggested she had decided to treat this interview differently than his presence might warrant. "Denzel, welcome to The View," Whoopi began. "It is such an honor to have you here. We want to talk about your incredible career, your legacy, everything you've given to American cinema." "Thank you, Whoopi," Denzel replied, his voice carrying that distinctive rich baritone that had made him one of the most recognizable voices in film. "I appreciate the invitation. It's good to be here." Then Joy leaned forward, and the atmosphere shifted. "So, Denzel, let's get into something real," Joy said, her voice carrying an edge that made the other hosts exchange glances. "You've had this legendary career, 2 Oscars, countless iconic roles. But let's be honest about something. You won your first Oscar playing a slave, and your second playing a corrupt cop. Some people would say Hollywood only rewards black actors when they play degrading roles. What does it say that your biggest recognition came from those particular characters?" The question was clearly designed to force Denzel into either criticizing Hollywood or defending roles that could be characterized as problematic. The studio fell quiet, but Denzel simply looked at Joy with an expression that was almost curious, as if he was studying a specimen. "That's an interesting way to frame my career," he said slowly. "Let me offer a different perspective. In Glory, I played a man who fought and died for freedom, a man who refused to accept the limitations others placed on him, a man of dignity and courage. If you only see slave when you look at that role, that says something about how you see things, not about what I did." He paused, letting that land. And Alonzo Harris in Training Day wasn't just a corrupt cop. He was a complex human being. Brilliant, charismatic, ultimately tragic. Shakespeare wrote villains too. Are we only supposed to play heroes? Is that the limitation you'd put on black actors? That we can only be noble and simple? Joy seemed momentarily thrown, but recovered quickly. But don't you think there's a pattern in Hollywood? Black actors winning for certain types of roles while being overlooked for others? There are patterns everywhere, Denzel replied calmly. But I've played lawyers, coaches, journalists, pilots, gangsters, historical figures, fathers, brothers, sons. I've directed films. I've produced films. I've done Broadway. If you want to reduce my 50-year career to 2 roles because those are the ones that won Oscars, that's your choice. But it's not accurate. He looked around the studio. I've been blessed to work consistently for 5 decades. How many actors of any color can say that? I don't focus on what I haven't received. I focus on the work. The work speaks for itself. Joy shifted tactics. Let's talk about your personal life then. You've been married to Pauletta for over 40 years. That's remarkable in Hollywood. But some people wonder if it's really possible to have that kind of relationship in this industry, or if it's more about maintaining an image. Denzel was quiet for a moment, and when he spoke, his voice was different, quieter, more personal. My wife is the greatest decision I ever made, not my career, not any role. Pauletta, she's been my partner, my best friend, my foundation for over 4 decades. We've raised 4 children together. We've been through everything together. He looked directly at Joy. I'm not going to sit here and try to convince you my marriage is real. It's real to me. It's real to her. It's real to our children. If you want to believe it's an image, that's your business. But I'd encourage you to look at your own relationships before questioning someone else's. The gentle but pointed rebuke landed with weight. Joy's face tightened. I'm not questioning your marriage. I'm asking how you've managed it in an industry known for destroying relationships. By putting God first, family second, and career third, Denzel said simply. By making choices. By being present. By remembering that fame is temporary but family is forever. It's not complicated, Joy. It just requires commitment. His voice warmed as he continued. My son, John David, is an actor now. You might have seen him in Tenet or Black Klansman. He's finding his own path, making his own name. And I'm prouder of the man he's become than any role he's ever played. That's what matters. Not the awards on my shelf, but the values in my children's hearts. He looked at the audience. Katia, Malcolm, Olivia, they're all finding their way. They're good people. They work hard. They treat others with respect. That's Pauletta's doing as much as mine, maybe more. She held that family together when I was gone for months making movies. She made the sacrifices that nobody sees. He paused. You know what the secret is? There is no secret. You just decide that you're going to make it work, and then you do the work every day. Same as anything else worth having. Joy pressed on. You're known for being very private. You rarely talk about politics, rarely take public stances on issues. Some people see that as admirable discretion. Others say it's a form of cowardice, that someone with your platform has a responsibility to speak out and your silence is complicity. The accusation was sharp and the studio seemed to hold its breath. But Denzel's expression remained calm. Who says I'm silent? His voice was soft but carried clearly through the studio. I speak through my work. I speak through the roles I choose. I speak through the stories I tell. Malcolm X wasn't a political statement. The hurricane wasn't a political statement. Fences wasn't a statement about family and responsibility and the black experience in America. He leaned back slightly, his voice gaining strength. I spent 3 years preparing for Malcolm X. 3 years. I read everything he wrote. I talked to people who knew him. I studied his speeches frame by frame. I didn't just play him. I lived with him. And when that film came out, young people who had never heard of Malcolm X suddenly wanted to know his story. That's impact, Joy. That's real change, not a tweet that disappears in an hour. He shook his head slowly. The idea that the only valid form of speech is Twitter posts and rally speeches is a very modern, very limited view. I've been making statements my entire career. I just do it through art instead of sound bites. But in moments like we're living through now, with everything happening in the country, don't you feel obligated to use your voice more directly? Joy pushed. Obligated to whom? Denzel asked. To people who want me to say what they've already decided I should say. To people who will criticize me no matter what I say because it won't be exactly what they wanted to hear? He leaned forward slightly. I'm 69 years old. I've been black in America my entire life. I don't need anyone to tell me what the struggle looks like. I've lived it. I've portrayed it. I've tried to illuminate it through my work. If that's not enough for some people, I can live with that. I'm not here to satisfy everyone's expectations. Joy seemed to sense an opening. But some would say that's a privileged position. You've made it. You're wealthy, successful, protected. It's easy to stay above the fray when you're not affected by the problems everyone else faces. Denzel laughed, but there was no humor in it. Not affected? Joy, I grew up in Mount Vernon, New York. My father was a Pentecostal minister and my mother ran a beauty shop. I went to public schools. I've been followed in stores. I've been pulled over for driving while black. I've had every experience that comes with being a black man in this country. His voice hardened slightly. The difference is, I don't use those experiences to perform outrage. I use them to inform my work. I channel them into characters and stories that might help people understand. That's my contribution. It's not less valid because it doesn't come with a hashtag. He paused, and something more personal surfaced. You want to know what shaped me? The Boys and Girls Club of Mount Vernon? When I was a kid getting into trouble, that place saved me, gave me structure, gave me mentors, showed me what was possible. I've been giving back to them for decades now. Not for publicity, because I remember what it felt like to be a young black kid without direction, and I know how much it matters when someone believes in you. He looked at Joy with something approaching disappointment. But you didn't ask me about that, did you? You didn't ask what I've been doing for my community for the last 50 years. You asked why I'm not on Twitter shouting about politics, because apparently that's the only contribution that counts now. He looked around at the audience. You know what I've learned in 69 years? Talk is cheap. Everybody's got an opinion. Everybody's got something to say. But what are you actually doing? I've been doing. For 50 years, I've been doing the work, building a career, raising a family, giving back to my community, supporting causes I believe in. Just because I don't announce it doesn't mean it's not happening. Joy tried another angle. Let's talk about your faith then. You've been very open about being a devout Christian. Some people find that inspiring. Others think it's hypocritical for someone in Hollywood, someone who has played violent characters, to claim religious devotion. Hypocritical? Denzel's eyebrow raised slightly. Because I'm an actor? Playing a character isn't endorsing that character's behavior. That's the whole point of acting. You inhabit someone else's experience to illuminate something about human nature. He paused, collecting his thoughts. My faith is the foundation of everything I am. It's gotten me through times when nothing else could have. It's given me humility when success could have made me arrogant. It's given me strength when failure could have broken me. I don't expect everyone to understand that, and I'm not asking anyone to share it, but I won't apologize for it either. His voice dropped to something more intimate. You know what my mother told me when I was young? She said, "Son, man gives the award, but God gives the reward." I've never forgotten that. The Oscars, the accolades, the recognition, that's man giving awards, but the reward is waking up every day with purpose, having a family that loves me, being at peace with who I am and what I've done, that comes from God. He paused, and something deeper surfaced in his voice. I almost became a preacher, you know, before acting found me, or I found it. My mother saw something in me. She prayed over me. She believed I was meant for something. Acting became my ministry. Every role is a sermon. Every character is an opportunity to show something about the human condition. That's how I see what I do. He looked at Joy with an expression that was almost gentle. So, when you ask if it's hypocritical for an actor to be a Christian, you're missing the point entirely. Acting is my calling, just like preaching would have been. I'm using the gifts I was given in service of something larger than myself. There's nothing hypocritical about that. Joy seemed frustrated that nothing was landing the way she intended. Fine. Let's talk about the work then. You've played some iconic roles, but you've also turned down roles that later became huge hits for other actors. 7. The Shawshank Redemption. Some people say you've made poor choices, that your career could have been even bigger if you'd been less particular. Denzel smiled, and it was the first genuine smile of the interview. Let me ask you something, Joy. By what measure is my career not big enough? I've worked continuously for 50 years. I've won 2 Academy Awards. I've been nominated for 9. I've done Broadway. I've directed. I've produced. I've worked with the greatest directors and actors of my generation. What exactly is missing? He shook his head. The idea that success is about accumulating the most roles or making the most money is a shallow view of what this profession is about. I've chosen roles that meant something to me, roles that challenged me, roles that said something I wanted to say. Not every choice was perfect, but they were my choices, made for my reasons. I can live with that. He looked at Joy with something that might have been compassion. You know what I notice about this interview? Every question you've asked has been about what I haven't done, what I should have done differently, what I'm doing wrong. Not one question about what I have accomplished, what I've learned, what I might offer to people watching. He gestured around the studio. There are people in this audience who have never seen a Denzel Washington movie. Young people who are just starting their journeys. People who might benefit from hearing about perseverance, about faith, about commitment, about doing the work day after day, even when no one's watching. But instead, we've spent 20 minutes on your agenda, on the gotcha questions you prepared, on your attempt to find something wrong with a life I've spent 70 years building. The observation landed with devastating precision. Joy's face was red now. I'm asking legitimate questions about a public figure. No, you're not, Denzel said quietly. You're asking hostile questions designed to provoke a reaction you can use. I've been doing interviews for 50 years, Joy. I know the difference between curiosity and attack. This is attack. He stood up slowly, and the movement commanded immediate attention. I want to say something to everyone watching, not to Joy. To you. His voice took on the quality it had in his greatest roles, powerful and intimate at the same time. Life is hard, success is harder, and staying successful while keeping your soul intact is the hardest thing of all. I've tried to do that. Some days I've succeeded, some days I've failed, but I've kept trying, I've kept showing up, I've kept putting the work first and the ego second. He looked directly into the camera. To the young people watching, don't let anyone tell you what you can't be. Don't let anyone define your success by their standards. And don't let anyone convince you that you need to tear others down to lift yourself up. Do the work, trust the process, keep the faith. That's all I've ever done, and it's gotten me here. He turned back to Joy. I wish you well, Joy. I really do. But I've said everything I came here to say, and I'm not interested in continuing this particular conversation. He began walking toward the edge of the set, then stopped and turned back. One more thing. You asked earlier about my silence on political matters. Here's my position. In a world full of people shouting, sometimes the bravest thing you can do is whisper, or stay quiet altogether. Let your life be your statement. Let your work be your argument. Let your character be your politics. He smiled, and it was warm, but final. I don't need to tell people what to think. I need to show them who I am. And I've been doing that every day for 50 years. The people who understand will understand. The people who don't, won't. Either way, I'll keep doing what I do. That's all any of us can do. And with that, Denzel Washington walked off the set of The View, leaving behind a studio that seemed transformed by his presence. The